If you are thinking about buying a boat, stop for just a moment, not to talk you out of it, but to show you the part almost every new owner regrets overlooking. There are complications that feel small at first, then grow into something big enough to change how you feel about the entire lifestyle. And the surprising thing is, none of them are dramatic or obvious. Most are quiet, slow, and incredibly expensive. So let us walk you through 8 reasons not to buy a boat. If you still want one after hearing all of them, you will be going in with your eyes open, and that alone could save you a huge amount of money, time, and stress. Number 1, everything breaks. Out of all the reasons people regret buying a boat, this is the one that catches most new owners completely off guard. Everything breaks. Not just once, and not just when it is convenient. The ocean, lakes, even a quiet river, all combine corrosion, vibration, moisture, and sunlight in a way that slowly attacks everything you own. The first season often feels exciting. You fix a few small things, buy some cleaner, maybe replace a line or two, and think, that was not so bad. Then the list starts to grow. A bilge pump fails. A hose clamp rusts through. The toilet backs up. An electrical connection that worked fine last week suddenly decides it has had enough. Even if you haul the boat out and fix absolutely everything you can find, it will not be long before something else has failed. If you want to own a boat, you have to be ready to become a mechanic, an electrician, a plumber, a carpenter, and a general problem solver, often all in the same weekend. There is so much to learn just to keep the boat itself running, and that is before you even begin to think about the skills required to take her off the dock and navigate anywhere safely. For some people, that constant learning and tinkering is half the fun. For others, it is the fastest route to frustration and burnout. And that brings us to the second reason, because once things start breaking, you discover very quickly that the parts and tools to fix them are not cheap. Number 2, the money sink. Reason number 2 is simple to say and painful to live with. Boats consume an almost unbelievable amount of money. Most people focus on the sticker price, the big number on the listing. They scrape and stretch to reach that number, tell themselves they got a bargain, and then discover that the real costs show up later, one invoice at a time. Even if you do most of the work yourself, a huge amount of the equipment you will need is expensive. Safety gear, life rafts, flares, radios, anchors, dock lines, fenders, all of it adds up quickly. Replace a cracked hatch, and you might spend what would cover a very nice weekend away on land. Decide to replace tired electronics or a failing engine part, and the bill can suddenly look like the price of a small used car. There is a joking saying that the word boat stands for the phrase, bring out another. 1,000. Like most jokes that survive for a long time, it sticks around because it contains some truth. Rarely does a boat bill arrive that feels pleasantly small. Most of them seem to land at exactly the wrong moment, just when you thought you had caught up. On top of parts, there are the ongoing costs. Storage or slip fees, haul-outs, bottom paint, insurance, registration, fuel, professional labor, when the job is beyond what you can safely handle. Many owners quietly admit that they were totally unprepared for how much everything ended up costing once the honeymoon phase passed. Some even end up selling a boat they love, not because they no longer enjoy it, but because the financial strain slowly takes the joy out of every trip. Now, there are ways to make a small boating budget go farther. Smaller, simpler boats cost less to maintain. Anchoring out, instead of staying in expensive marinas, can save a huge amount of money. Learning to do your own basic maintenance, and resisting the urge to upgrade every shiny new gadget can all help. But even then, a boat will ask for a slice of your income every single year. If that sounds heavy, remember, we are only on the second reason. Because even if you can afford the financial cost, there is another resource that boats demand just as fiercely: your time. Number 3, the time tax. People buy boats for freedom, for the idea of spontaneous sunset cruises and early morning fishing trips. The image is simple: you show up, toss off a line, and off you go. The reality usually looks very different. Owning a boat means paying a constant time tax. Before you can leave the dock, there is a checklist. You need to air the boat out, check the bilge, look over the engine, make sure the batteries are charged, verify that the navigation lights still work, and ensure that you have safety gear for everyone on board. You load food, water, gear, and whatever toys everyone insists on bringing. By the time you are actually backing away from the dock, a good chunk of your day is already gone. After you come back, you reverse the process. Lines, fenders, sails or covers, a quick rinse of the decks, maybe flushing the engine if you are in salt water, and at least a basic tidy up inside. If you skip those jobs, the boat lets you know. Mold spreads, salt crusts. Minor issues turn into bigger ones. Add in seasonal chores like winterizing, de-winterizing, waxing, and scheduling haul-outs. And it becomes very clear that the hours you spend actually using the boat are only part of the story. For many owners, entire holidays quietly disappear into boat work. A long weekend that was meant to be a simple getaway turns into 3 days of chasing a fuel issue, or rewiring a navigation light, or stripping old paint from the hull. You look up at the end of it all and realize you never actually left the marina. For some people, that ritual becomes a rhythm they enjoy. They like the feel of a well-used tool in their hand and the satisfaction of fixing something with their own effort. For others, it feels like every weekend gets eaten alive by one more job on a boat that somehow always needs attention. If your life is already stretched thin with work, family, and other commitments, you may find that the boat spends more time sitting, quietly decaying, than out on the water. And all of this is before we even talk about what it is actually like to live with the trade-offs that come with being on a boat instead of in a house. Because the next reason is all about comfort and how much of it you are genuinely willing to give up. Before we move on, a quick moment for you. If you have owned a boat before, or if you are right in the middle of deciding whether this lifestyle is actually for you, share your experience or your questions in the comments below. Hearing what other people have gone through makes these conversations far more honest and useful for everyone watching. And if you are finding value in hearing the side of boating that most people skip over, tap like and subscribe. It tells us you want more real-world insights, and it helps us keep making videos that actually prepare you for the water ahead. Number 4, the comfort trade-offs. On social media, boats often look like floating apartments, wide, airy cabins, perfectly made beds with throw pillows, someone sipping coffee in a sunlit cockpit. That version of boating does exist, but it usually sits at a price point most people will never touch. For most owners, moving time and energy onto a boat means accepting a very different level of comfort than they are used to on land. Space is limited, storage is limited, everything has to serve more than one purpose. If you are thinking about spending long weekends on board, or especially about living aboard full-time, you will probably need to downsize your belongings far more than you expect. That might mean giving up things like a full-sized refrigerator, a large television, a long hot shower whenever you feel like it, or a closet full of clothes and shoes. It might mean cooking in a small galley where every pot and pan has to be stowed between uses, so it does not end up flying across the cabin when a wake hits. It almost always means dealing with smells and noises that simply do not exist in a house. Sleep is different too. Cabins can be hot and stuffy in the summer and cool and damp in shoulder seasons. Ventilation hatches that let in a beautiful breeze at anchor can also drip condensation on your pillow at 3 in the morning. Every creak, rattle, and unfamiliar sound tends to wake you up until you learn which ones are normal and which ones are not. With careful planning, you can claw some of that comfort back, install solar panels, larger battery banks, and a powerful inverter, and you can run more of the household comforts you are used to. Some people add water makers so that long hot showers become possible again, at least occasionally. But these upgrades do not come cheap. The kind of electrical and water system upgrade that makes a boat feel more like a small apartment can easily slide into 5-figure territory, even if you are doing much of the work yourself. And of course, each new system is one more thing that can fail. So yes, life on a boat can be beautiful, peaceful, and cozy. It can also be cramped, damp, and a long way from the glossy catalog that sold you the dream. Even if you are willing to accept those trade-offs, there is another cost that slips in quietly, especially once you start leaving the dock more often. It is the feeling that you are never fully off duty. Number 5, you never completely relax. On land, it is easy to go to sleep, knowing the house will still be right where you left it in the morning. That quiet certainty disappears the moment you move aboard a boat, especially if you stay on a mooring or at anchor. At anchor, you do not fully sleep. Not at first. Part of your brain stays awake, even when your eyes are closed. You listen for changes in wind, unfamiliar thuds, shifts in motion. You second-guess the length of your anchor chain. You wonder if the current has reversed. You worry about a boat upwind dragging. Anchor alarms go off unnecessarily. You still get up and check anyway. It gets better with time. You learn what your boat feels like when everything is fine. You come to trust your setup, your judgment, and your instincts. But even when trust builds, the underlying tension never fully disappears. Boat ownership comes with a low-grade background awareness that something could go wrong at any moment, and it is yours to deal with if it does. Even in a marina, relaxation is partial. You double-check dock lines when wind is in the forecast. A burst of rain has you thinking about whether the bilge pump is running. You wonder if shore power disconnected while you were away. You wonder if the batteries topped up. If you own a boat, you know that sense of needing to check on things, even when you are not there. And when you are there, your mind rarely switches off completely. You are always watching for what might need fixing soon, what is rattling, what smells different, what looks like the start of another task on the list. Some people thrive on that. They enjoy being the one who notices things early, who stays a step ahead of problems. For them, the quiet vigilance is part of the rhythm, but for others, the weight of always being on alert, even when the engine is off and the anchor is down, can wear thin over time. That sense of never truly being off duty might feel manageable if you are cruising full-time. If you live aboard, it is your lifestyle. But if you only use the boat a few weekends a year, and every one of those weekends includes sleepless nights, background worry, and mental load, it is worth asking what kind of rest the boat is actually giving back. Number 6. Limited use, full-time bills. Many boat owners quietly admit a difficult truth. When they look back at a full year, they discover that they used the boat far less often than they imagined when they signed the purchase contract. Life gets in the way. Work runs late. Children's school events fill the calendar. Friends visit. Weather refuses to cooperate. A windless weekend follows a run of perfect weekdays. A minor mechanical issue pops up and takes the boat out of action while you order parts. Before you know it, the season is over, and when you count the days you actually got out on the water, the number can be surprisingly small. Meanwhile, the costs roll on. Slip or storage fees, insurance, loan payments if you have them, and routine maintenance do not care how many times the boat left the dock. When you divide your total yearly costs by the handful of days you did use the boat, the cost per day on the water can be eye-opening. The emotional side of that math can be even harsher than the financial side. Every time you walk past the marina and see your boat sitting there, unused, it can feel like a quiet accusation. You may start to avoid going down to the dock altogether, because each glimpse of the boat is a reminder of money leaving your account for something you are not enjoying. There are alternatives. For some people, renting or chartering occasionally makes more sense. You pay only when you are actually going to go out, and you leave the maintenance to someone else. For others, joining a shared ownership program or a boat club can offer access without full responsibility. But full ownership locks you into paying for a boat, whether or not your schedule and the weather decide to cooperate. If your heart still says, "I will make the time, I will use it constantly," there is another piece of the puzzle to consider. You may be excited, you may be fully committed, but not everyone in your life will feel the same way. Which brings us to the next reason, one that many people only discover after the purchase. Number 7. Your crew may hate it. You can be completely captivated by the idea of boating and still discover often, much later than you would like, that the people you care about most simply do not feel the same way. It catches a surprising number of new owners off guard. They picture calm anchorages, shared excitement, and weekends that bring everyone closer. But once the boat leaves the dock, a very different reality can show up. Some people do not enjoy being on the water, no matter how hard you try to ease them into it. The moment the shoreline slips away, they begin to feel uneasy. What looks to you like an inviting horizon looks to them like being trapped. Even gentle motion can feel unpredictable or threatening, and a rolling swell that you barely notice might send someone else into a spiral of seasickness or anxiety. That discomfort is not always temporary. Some people simply never adapt, and asking them to give it time can build resentment rather than confidence. Children bring their own challenges. A child who thrives on activity might find a boat confining and strange. They cannot run freely. They cannot burn energy the way they do on land, and small frustrations grow quickly in a tight space. Even older kids, who may not fear the water, might feel restless or disconnected from friends and routines. What you see as adventure might feel like isolation to them. Partners often have a more complicated reaction. They might enjoy being on the water in theory, but quietly resent the constant maintenance, the unpredictable expenses, or the amount of time the boat steals from weekends that could have been spent resting or doing something familiar. When boat ownership reshapes your schedule, it reshapes your relationships too. Then there are pets, which add a layer of logistics few imagine ahead of time. A dog that refuses to use the toilet on board turns every outing into a rigid schedule of dinghy runs to shore, no matter the weather or the waves. Some animals never relax underway, some tremble at engine noise, some freeze at movement they cannot predict. You love them, so you adjust. And suddenly, the boat goes out less often, in narrower weather windows, to safer and more predictable spots. These accommodations slowly change the nature of the life you imagined. You begin choosing marinas over anchorages, not because you prefer them, but because someone else feels safer tied to a dock. Trips become shorter, calmer, and rarer. You love boating. They tolerate it. Or worse, they dread it. And when joy turns into tension, the boat itself can become a quiet wedge instead of a shared escape. Many people try to fix the problem by changing the boat, something larger, something smoother, something supposedly more family-friendly. Others convince themselves the answer is a cheaper fixer-upper. They can rebuild into the perfect compromise. That hopeful shift often leads straight into the next reason. Number 8. The endless dream project. For many hopeful owners, the project boat begins as an opportunity. The price is lower, the potential looks enormous, and you tell yourself that with some elbow grease and a few focused weekends, you can turn it into exactly what you want. The idea is seductive, a boat rebuilt your way at your pace, with your personal touch in every detail. You imagine yourself sanding under the sun, repairing systems with confidence, and eventually launching a vessel that carries a story in every panel. But the difference between the dream and the reality often becomes visible almost immediately. Older boats carry histories you cannot see during a quick walkthrough. A soft patch on the deck might turn into a structural repair. A questionable wire might reveal an entire system that needs redoing. That simple cosmetic work often hides deeper issues caused by years of slow leaks, neglected hardware, or aging materials. Every repair uncovers two more. The list expands, not shrinks. The tools spread across the cabin. Your optimism slowly becomes organization, then determination, and eventually fatigue. Project boats also stretch timelines in ways few expect. What began as a one-season plan becomes 2, then 3, and then something you work on whenever you get the time, which becomes less and less often as other responsibilities press in. Meanwhile, the boat sits on a trailer, in a yard, or in a slip that charges you month after month regardless of progress. You walk past it and feel both responsibility and guilt. You know what it could become, but you also know how far there is to go. If you have ever walked through a boatyard, you have seen the graveyard of stalled dreams. Boats with stripped hulls, half-installed parts, or tarps sagging under old rainwater. Their owners once stood exactly where you are, full of motivation. Eventually, many simply ran out of time, money, or energy. Life moved faster than the project did. That does not mean rebuilding a boat is a mistake. Some people love it. They find satisfaction in each repair and fulfillment in each challenge. But for many, the project slowly becomes a burden, a reminder of what they hoped for, but no longer have the bandwidth to finish. If you hear all of this and still feel drawn to the idea of owning a boat, that says something good. It means you understand the cost, not just in money, but in patience, relationships, and time, and you still believe the return is worth it. Before you go, share in the comments which reason hit you the hardest, or what surprised you most. Hearing your stories helps everyone who is considering taking the same path. And if you found this breakdown useful, tap like and subscribe. It tells us you want more real, experience-based videos instead of glossy sales talk. And it helps us keep making content that actually prepares you for life on the water. The next chapter will cover the reasons you absolutely should buy a boat, and how to do it without losing the joy to the hidden costs.